Ladies and gentlemen, we have an absolute treat for you tonight. We have on Dr. AnnMaria DeMars. Dr. AnnMaria, you are here with Aaron, Jonathan, and Adrian. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're very welcome.
Well, first of all, our first question is, we were looking at your biography, and you are extremely well-traveled, well-studied. You have several degrees at multiple universities all over the world. So it seems like evolving and growing and continuing to learn, that's a major part of your life. Do you think that
I try.
Well, do you think that Ronda staying stagnant at one gym is hurting her from growing and improving?
Well, I think for anybody, not just Ronda, it's funny. Years ago, I was talking to a good friend of mine, and we were talking. We'd been on the world team together, and we kind of went through some people that we thought had really great potential and didn't make it. And, they did well, but they didn't go as well as we thought. And I said, Mike Swain, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was the first man to win the world championships from the U.S. in judo. And I said, I mean, Mike's a good judo player, but I had thought there would be other people before him that would win. And I asked my friend, why she thought, because there were some people from her gym. And she said, because they stayed where they were comfortable. And Mike went to Japan. He was from New Jersey originally. He went to San Jose State. He went all around the world, literally, trying to get better. And I think for anybody, that's whether you're in sports or in business or, in academics, nobody has all the answers. And you're always going to be better off if you learn from more than one person and you go to more than one place. I think that's true for everybody in just about every endeavor.
Is that something that you're skeptical about Ronda's current coach, that he tends to think that he has all the answers? Is that something that immediately rubs you the wrong way?
There are many things, but I think one of them, I've been in business for many years, and I believe that a major part of success in business is ethics and honesty. And, here's somebody who's being investigated for tax fraud, being investigated for mortgage fraud, being investigated for bankruptcy fraud, claims he made no money. Claims he's never had to pay taxes. And I just think that's no way to run a business. And anyone who thinks it is delusional. I'm out here in North Dakota right now, and the reason I'm out here is I'm meeting with people from a federal program. And in fact, I met with a few people from federally funded programs, and you may think you're getting away with something, and this is just good advice for anybody in general. You may think you're getting away with something as far as like not paying your taxes or hiding assets, but very often you aren't. Just coincidentally today on this very small town where I happened to be working, they came in and did some major drug bust and arrested something like 36 people. Jeez. So you may think you're getting away with something, but often what's happening is people are collecting evidence. And I know it's a cliche to say that honesty is the best policy, but I think it is. And, if you're a person who's being investigated for multiple counts of fraud and tax evasion, that's somebody to avoid. And, I try in my entire life to be the diametric opposite of that. I pay corporate taxes, and I have a Santa Monica business license. I have a Spirit Lake Tribe business license because I do business out here. I do pay taxes in every state that we do business. To me, that's just common sense. Unless you're brain dead, you don't think that you can get away with not paying taxes and claiming you have no income and not paying your creditors. No one runs a business that way. I don't.
Yeah, the investigation, the documents that I saw are pretty intense. They go back a long way. They question pretty much every affiliation that he has. And I guess I got to ask you, are you as a mother, are you a little bit worried that perhaps the investigation might stem to your daughter as well, since obviously she's got to be one of his biggest earners?
Actually, I would say no. One thing, I know Ronda better than most people, obviously. And not only is she a really good person, but she's often very underestimated as far as how bright she is. And she is pretty good about the very first check she writes is to the IRS. And the very second check she writes is to her 401k. So she's pretty well on the straight and narrow.
Oh no, I didn't mean with the IRS. I meant in the investigation of Edmond, since she's got to be paying him, and he's claiming that he has no income. It could go to her, couldn't it not?
Well, no, because I mean, I could tell you a little bit about business, having been in business a long time, and I hire a lot of contractors. So let's say I hire your show to do a commercial for me, and I give a check to your show. And let's say you've produced it, you did all the work on it, and you get paid by them, but you claim no income. Well, I wrote a check to the show, and I declared that check to the show on my taxes, and either you're an idiot or your producer's an idiot or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as tax laws are concerned and everything else, I'm on the side of the angels. I did my bit. I wrote a check, I declared on my taxes, I showed on my bank statement, my profit and loss. So if you claim you have no income, then you're an idiot.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. Right. So.
All right, well, Doctor, we have another question for you. Much like Ronda being the first female UFC champion, you were the first person, man or woman, from the U.S. to win a world championship in judo. So you kind of know what it's like to have the pressure of being the first to accomplish a major thing in terms of combat sports. Part of being a champion is never giving up, never quitting. You fall, you get right back up, and you never quit. That's how obviously you become a champion. People are saying Ronda's going to retire. This is it. She's done. But as a world champion, as a UFC champion, as an Olympian, is there any way possible she would ever quit, at this point after one defeat?
Well, I mean, right at the moment, obviously, she's on what do they call it, a medical suspension or something, so at the moot point, right?
Right.
And I think, but for me, no, I disagree with that, actually. A really good friend of mine, Steve Sack, who was on the Olympic team in 1980, gave me really good advice after I won the World Championships. He said, no matter what you do, it won't satisfy people. You can win the Olympics, and people will say, could she win it again? He said, you could win the Olympics by opponents, which is the judo equivalent of knockout. People would say, well, could you win it then under a minute? No matter what you do, people will criticize and be dissatisfied. And so you have to decide when's the time for you. And actually, I didn't go to the Olympics. I had 2 more kids after I won the World Championships. I had Jennifer and then Ronda. And I didn't go to the 88 Olympics. I went and got a PhD and married Ronda Rousey, and that's what I did. And I have never regretted it for a fraction of a second. I think every individual person needs to know when is their time. And, I don't think you could say that for anybody else. That you need to look in the mirror. And I have to tell you for myself personally, I wanted to win the World Championships. I wanted to be best in the world. Nobody had ever done it. And when I did it, I was done. And, to be honest, I didn't have that same thing that I will kill you and eat you in front of the referee if that's what it takes to win. I had done what I wanted to do, and then I went on and did other things and married the man of my dreams and got a doctorate and started a business. And I think that advice from Steve was very profound. He did the same thing. He made the Olympic team in 1980, and you might remember we boycotted the Olympics, so he didn't get to go. And then the next time around in 84, Mike Swain, who ended up winning the world, beat Steve, and Steve was the alternate. And at that point, I think he just decided he didn't want to make another run at it. He went and got a master's degree. He's had a good career. And so, no, I think that's a big myth. And I think the exact opposite, that one of the mistakes people make is they don't know when to quit. I've been in combat sports the vast majority of my life. I started competing in judo 45 years ago. And I competed for 14 years. I won at all levels. I coached at everything from little, preschool kids to people who, won international medals. And I see a big mistake where people don't quit because they have nothing else. I remember a guy I knew was just an amazing judo player. He'd won 7 national championships. And afterwards, I was at a tournament, international tournament. Me and some of my friends were talking, and I said what a great judo player he was. And one of the guys said, "Are you kidding me? That guy? I've never seen him win." And I realized, yeah, because he had just kept competing and competing because he had nothing else. So, I mean, this isn't anything specific to Ronda. It's anybody. I think that's a big myth. I think you need to know when it's not what you want to do anymore. And you don't owe your life to anybody else. I think the world is full of people who are living someone else's life.
Well,
and, okay.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but one of my friends, Babalu Sobral, always says, "You don't choose fighting. Fighting chooses you." So it's tough to know when to quit because they're doing it kind of for themselves. It's not really to impress someone else. You know, it's just something inside of them.
Well, until there isn't. You know, Gary Stretch, who is the world boxing champion, said something really brilliant to me one time, too. He said, it's hard to get up and train when you slept in silk pajamas. And his point was, and like I said, Gary was a world champion, that you want to fight to prove something. You want to fight because you're angry. I mean, everybody has their own reason to fight. But sometimes that reason that brings you so much success, then you don't have it anymore. And, you know, it's funny you were saying, because I was just thinking about that, you know, professionally. You know, my whole life I've worried about making enough money and building a business and getting a reputation and getting business. And now, you know, I turn business away. And it's kind of weird to not have that same thing to prove, by God, that I'm competent and I can do it. You know, one of my clients is just a wonderful person. I was talking to him. I said, you know, you don't have to renew this contract. It won't hurt my feelings if you want to get, you know, somebody more local or somebody cheaper. Right. And he said, no, I already told people, my plan is to keep renewing your contract until you either refuse to do it anymore or die. So it is kind of a weird thing. Success is a weird thing. And I say this as somebody who's achieved success in sports and academics and business on a hard road, that you fight and fight and fight to get there, and then you're there. And it's kind of weird. I hope that makes sense.
It does. That was actually really well put. Yeah, it's. I really love the way how you explain that so eloquently, and you don't just tell us no, you're wrong. You explain it. You explain it where I was like, wow, I'm having an epiphany during this. This is no wonder she has all these degrees, and you know she's a doctor.
Yeah, I got to tell you, we have a couple mutual friends. I was told by Dr. Roddy Ferguson. And first of all,
awesome.
Yeah, I got to tell the Home Depot takedown. When we worked together at Home Depot, he caught a thief, and
oh my gosh, yeah,
awesome.
Oh really?
Oh, it was great, yeah.
So that's a true story.
Oh yeah, and also Jean LaBelle, who's a near and dear friend of mine, told me, you got to listen to this lady. And I can't wait to read your book, but I got to ask you, you know, I get this sense. There was a lot of noise before the last fight, of course, with Edmond, the controversy with your statements towards Edmond. Ronda and Travis, their relationship came out in the press, and frankly, it's really nobody's business, but it became a big deal. And I got to ask you, it seemed to me that you kind of had a sense that something was wrong before this fight. Am I right on that? Did you kind of have an idea that maybe, as a motherly instinct, something's not right here?
Well, it's not a motherly instinct. I mean, I have been, like I said, I started judo in 1971, okay? Wow. So, and I wrote a book on it, and I won a world championships, and the world championships wasn't the only international tournament I won. So I know a little bit about this stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't believe that training only at one place is good. I don't believe that not taking advantage of all of the training partners and the resources you can is good. I think anybody who tries to keep other people away from you who could benefit you is a bad coach. I mean, I know a little bit about, you know, I mean, and I don't mean this disrespectfully because she seems like a wonderful person. I've met Chris Weidman's mom. She's a lovely, very nice lady. But I don't think that she has a lot of credentials as far as competition and coaching. And so I think there's the difference. I do have a lot of credentials. I literally wrote a book on winning at Network.
Right.
And I think that, you know, my doctorate is in applied statistics. And what statisticians do is basically detect patterns in data. And you can look and say that people who train only at one place, people who don't take advantage of others who can help them, coaches who try to keep away other people with a lot of credentials, do not benefit people. You can look and say, if you have a club where the majority of people don't win more than 50% of the time, if you look at, you know, look at people's records. I mean, I love Marina Shafir to death, but she lost 2 out of 3 matches. You know, that's my training. I'm a statistician. I'm paid to look at data and give you, to the best of my ability, objective and accurate results, and not give you what you want to know, but give you what the data show, and to the best of my ability, which I would be modest enough to say fairly well regarded in my field. And if I look at data and say, on the average, you should win 50% of your fights, because, you know, in every fight, somebody wins. So if you're not winning, if your players are winning 50% of the time, they're doing no better than the average. If they're winning less than 50% of the time, they're doing worse than the average. And so you just look at the facts. And I've always said, and it wasn't original to me, but it's still true, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts.
Right. Wow.
So, yeah, speaking of statistics, actually, tell us, what is seventh generation games? I was trying to read and figure out, you know, how to even decipher what it was about, and I figured I'm just going to ask you, because it looked really interesting.
You ever play like World of Warcraft or Grand Theft Auto or Super Mario Brothers?
Grand Theft Auto, yeah, Super Mario for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, some people call Spirit like Grand Theft Horses. Imagine if by the time you got to level 20, you were ready for algebra. How cool would that be? Oh, interesting.
So they're educational for middle school to grades to junior high school, or?
Yeah, pretty much well, you know, it's funny. Every game we do turns out to be for a much broader market than we had envisioned. So basically, Fish Lake, you learn a little bit about history and a lot about fractions. So it's really based on a true story, and so is Forgotten Trail, our third game. And so you learn history and math at the same time. So really what happened in this country 1,000 years ago is the Ojibwe people, who are now in North Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, where I am right now. 1,000 years ago, before there were horses, before there were cars, they picked up everything they owned and walked halfway across the continent. And why would they do that? And nobody really knows. So we started out with this story that maybe it was because they were running out of food. And if you were running out of food, you wouldn't wait till everybody was starving and laying around dying and go, oh, wow, this sucks. You know, maybe if you're smart, and I believe that Native Americans were smart and observant, that you would notice that, hey, you know, the amount of fish in the lake that's edible is going down, right? Like last year we went out and we caught 125 fish, and 25 of them were a foot long, and we went fishing this week and we caught 16 fish, and only 2 of them were a foot long. So you have to figure out, are there fewer edible fish? And if you could solve that, which is basically a question of equivalent fractions, then you'd realize, man, we're going to starve to death. We should leave. And if you get it wrong, then you die. So in the game, you die. And then you have to go and study some more and get back in the game. And if you get it right, then you get to, like, jump over all these snakes that are in the path and run down to where the fishing spot is and fish with spears and, you know, catch the fish. And so everything in the game is like that. There's an actual historical, cultural fact about Native American history, or in Aztec games, about Latin American history. So you learn history, but then you also learn math in context. Like another part, like in Spirit Lake, you come into the village and there's nobody out. And you go into the first teepee and the mom says, everybody's sick. You need to go out in the woods and find this herb and get 3 for each person, because that's how much you need to make medicine. And so you go out, and on the way, you're attacked by wolves.
So it's like multi-layered problem solving then. It's like
Right. And, you know, if you came back with the wrong number of herbs, then, you know, there'd be lots of puking because you overdose people. And it turns out that middle school students are heavily amused by people puking in games.
Absolutely. So, I'm laughing right now.
So we try to teach math, that math matters. And the reason that I started doing this, you know, Maria talks about it, my oldest daughter, and when she gives presentations to investors, is the reason my kids have the opportunities they have now is 50 years ago, I was good at math. And because I was good at math, I got a scholarship to college, got an education that enabled me to give my kids an education, which enables them to give their kids an education, enabled them to have all these opportunities. And so that's where the 7th generation came from. That, I mean, sports are wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at what makes a difference in somebody's life, if you can change, if I could go back and change somebody's life, pick anybody, somebody who's in jail, whatever, somebody who's working at 7-Eleven, if I could go back and when they were about to drop out of school, I could change that. So instead they graduate from high school, maybe went to college, how much would that change their whole life?
Right.
And so and then it would change their kids' life. So what we try to do is what happens to a lot of people is they're doing okay in school. I mean, most little 6-year-olds, they like school. That's why we didn't start with little bitty kids, with like first, second grade. They like school. Then they get into something that's maybe a little hard. And they start thinking, maybe I'm not good at math. Maybe I suck at math. And, generally you're only willing to admit you suck to a certain point. So it's not that you suck, but school sucks. I think I'll quit.
Yeah, you redirect your frustration.
But if instead, when it was starting to get difficult, we could give you something that's kind of fun to do, like a game, and in the game, if you get something wrong, you get routed to a page that says, pick how you want to learn. Do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to do an activity like, drag equivalent fractions to match? Do you want to read some web pages? Do you want them read to you? So you can learn however's comfortable for you. You can take however long you want. And you're playing the same game in the same class as everybody else. So nobody knows you're on level 4 and you're on level 6. And maybe if you are, you're on level 4 because you suck at shooting wolves. I mean, I'm really good at math, but I suck at shooting wolves with arrows. So, if we could intervene at that point, which is what we try to do, then maybe you would decide, well, I'm okay now. And maybe I'll stick it out to school because my mom really wants me to graduate. And so it would change your whole life.
That's pretty cool.
That's what I do.
Okay, just a couple more quick questions before we let you go, Doctor. I'll let my co-host Jonathan King go ahead and ask you one.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to, since you won the world championship, what year was that you won the world championship?
84, Vienna. Come on, son.
Okay.
Did you do research?
So 1984, because you touched on it earlier, how
I'm America's oldest living world champion.
Are you really?
I am.
At age 37? You're the oldest?
Yeah, you're not a day over what?
57.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, stop it.
I won in 84. That was 31 years ago. I'm good at math.
Well, you touched on it earlier about how you that competitive drive to become the best, and to become great at something, to become successful, and then all of a sudden you find out that you're there, and you have that weird realization that you've kind of conquered. Now what? You brought up the silk sheets analogy. It seems like Ronda's at a point now where she's pretty much done everything that you can do in mixed martial arts. I mean, she's won the title. She defined the division. She smashed through a glass ceiling. Before her, women's combat sports, at least on the mainstream, were kind of viewed as a sideshow. So her place in history is set. If she were to come back and fight Holly again, what do you think the single motivation would be?
To prove that she wasn't wrong the first time. I mean, you asked me, but that's pure speculation on my part.
All right, Doctor, before we let you go, I've got to hit you hard with the brutally honest, rapid fire, yes or no answers. We just need a yes or no. Or if you want to elaborate, you can, but it's rapid fire. First, is Edmond the Diamond responsible for Ronda's success inside the cage? Yes or no?
No.
You've said in the past that you call Ronda's boyfriends Bob because by the time you can figure out their name or learn their name, they're already gone. Yes or no? Is Ronda's current boyfriend known to you as Bob?
Yes.
Was that a yes or no?
Yeah, it was yes.
That was a yes.
Yes.
Wow.
All the girls' boyfriends are Bob until they are married to them.
Okay.
Wow, okay, last one. Yes or no? Is Ronda going to the Marine Ball, or did that already happen? Yes
I'm pretty certain she is. I think she's going tomorrow.
Okay. And
I'm in North Dakota, but I think she's going tomorrow.
That's awesome. I'm so glad she's doing that to help and support the troops. And before we let you go, I want to ask you, are there any charities or organizations that you support that we could make a small donation in your name to for giving us the time tonight?
Oh, there are a zillion. But you know what I would really like? And anybody who wants to help out, Gompers Judo, Ronda started this program. Here's the thing, too, and I want to say this. I don't know if it's time, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh yeah, you have as much. We just don't want to. We didn't want to keep you because we know you're so busy.
Here's the thing.
Clark,
you
take
didn't
as much
ask
time
me
as
these
you want.
questions. Sometimes people say, "Is there anything you didn't ask me that I want?" You know, one thing people don't know about Ronda is she has a heart of pure gold. She supports so many charities you have no idea about. There was a church that needed a chapel built, and they were short like $11,000, and Ronda said, "I got $11,000 done."
That's amazing.
You know,
that's the thing about people who are so giving is they don't tell you about it, so people wouldn't know.
There was a school. There's a school in downtown LA. I didn't even know this. That for the last 2 years, she's been buying their uniforms for soccer. The custodian comes after school and coaches all these kids, and they had 40 kids on the soccer team, and she'd been buying their uniforms for the last 2 years because the school couldn't afford uniforms.
Wow.
And then the only reason I found out about it is some of the kids didn't have shoes. And one of the teachers there contacted me and said, would Reebok maybe be able to give them shoes? And they did.
Wow.
But, you know, it goes on and on and on and on and on. You have no idea. She gives so much to charity, to you know, so many schools and after-school programs and church programs. And she raised money for the community outreach medical services and supposed to go down there and present them the check. She raised money for Dee Hirsch mental health services to help women with eating disorders. There's just such a long line of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of money that she has raised and given away to charity. And people haven't the faintest idea about it. So anybody who has anything bad to say about Ronda can bite me. Because she's raised, and here's another thing, ever since I think she was in Strike Force, before every fight, she's had a contest for the World Food Program on the free rice thing to raise
I've seen that.
money, and had contests. I mean, they've raised an incredible amount, like 100 million grains of rice or something, to feed like tens of thousands of people. And yet, she does all of this stuff. And another thing that she does is Gompers Middle School, which is in South Los Angeles. It used to be called Watts, but now they call it South LA because I guess that sounds better. It doesn't seem to me the neighborhood's gotten any better. But
those terms were invented by realtors. You know for a fact.
Right. But Ronda started that program, I think, 5 or 6 years ago when her sister Jennifer was a student teacher there, and asked Ronda. It must have been, it was 6 years ago because Ronda had just come back from the Olympics, and so it was in 2009 in the spring semester. Jen said the school program they wanted to have somebody teach judo there, but they had no money. And Ronda said, I'll teach it for free. Now, this is a kid who's working 3 jobs and got an Olympic bronze medal, a world silver medal, won I don't know how many Pan American gold medals, junior world gold medal, and says, I will teach for free in this after-school program. So she started it. She taught there for 2 or 3 years. And then when her MMA career took off, I was substituting for her, and then I ended up teaching there. But Ronda still funds that whole thing. She sent those kids to the national championships for freestyle judo. We just came back from this fabulous mini camp in Newport Beach that all the kids stayed in a hotel there. We had a team dinner there. We had a college counselor who's a good friend of mine came in and talked to all the kids about college admission requirements. We had practice every day on the beach. My friends at Gracie Bar in Newport Beach let us have their club for free. You know, but Ronda covers the cost of everything out of her own pocket. And, yeah, so anybody has anything bad to say about Ronda, you don't know her like I do. And she doesn't say anything. But here, I haven't even got to the end yet. So usually once or twice a year, she comes to conference and she teaches. And she doesn't tell anybody. They don't let any cameras in. The only pictures or videos you will see were on the cell phones for those kids. And she tells them, there's no media here because I do this for you. It's not like some presidential candidate, washing one dish for the cameras.
Where is this at again? Sorry, the phone kind of cut out. Where was this at?
It's in South Los Angeles, in Watts.
Oh, okay.
It's at Gompers Middle School.
No, I gotcha. Sorry.
So anyway, that your whole question of if there's any charity, one thing, so somebody, God love them, a friend of mine donated judo gis for all the kids. Because they had gis that, friends of mine's kids outgrew, and you know, and then some of the kids Jesse Moya that runs Moya Brand, God love him, he, one year gave all the kids studio geese their size, but they're middle school kids, so they glow, right?
Right.
So we had somebody this year buy them all Adidas studio geese. But what they don't have is any kind of gi bag, anything to carry them in. So when we go and check in the hotel, I know all these kids are like bringing their stuff in plastic bags from the grocery store. So what I would really, really like, if anybody could help me out, I got 24 kids, I would like, you know, like a gi bag, something that you carry your gear in. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Gear bags.
That's what I would really like. That would gladden my little heart for Christmas.
Write that down there.
Okay.
We're gonna write this down and see if we can help out with that cost.
All right, well, Dr. AnnMaria, I really appreciate your time, and thank you also for telling us that stuff about Ronda that normally we wouldn't have heard, because it actually does influence people's opinion, and it is really nice to hear that she's such a humanitarian, and it sounds like she might have a more fulfilling career in life outside of the cage. So I really appreciate you doing that, and once again, thank you so much for your time. Please, if you haven't already, check out her website, seventhgenerationgames.com, to see her educational video games. Also, is it on Amazon, Doctor?
Yeah, where can we find your book?
Where can we find your book? On Amazon, please.
Oh, my book, Winning
Yes.
on the Ground? Yeah, it's on Amazon, or you can find it on the Black Belt Magazine website. Wherever
Winning
books
on the
are sold.
ground.
All right, well, Dr. AnnMaria DeMars, I just want to say on behalf of the Brutally Honest Show, thank you so much for your time tonight. You are an incredibly well-spoken, charming lady who is also extremely accomplished and educated, and it was an absolute pleasure to get to speak to you for the first time. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right,
All
Dr.
right,
AnnMaria
man.
DeMars. Woo!
Wow.
All right.